Thanks for staying with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly in a personal story segment tonight, part 2 of my interview with Bill Maher, who is one of the most adamant voices against religion and conservative people in America. In fact, Mr. Maher is blunt. Conservatives and believers are morons. You say on a couple of shows that I saw that a lot of Americans are too stupid. They just don't understand what's going on, and therefore they make fallacious decisions. Do you feel comfortable saying, look, you American people, most of you are dunderheads and you just don't understand? And
I do.
You do feel comfortable with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I absolutely. 60% of the American people, Bill, believe the Noah's Ark story is literally true.
Okay. I don't know any of those people.
I don't know how to
you know, I think they found Noah's Ark on some mountain in Turkey. Didn't they find it up there?
But that's in your Bible. I mean, if you're a religious person and the Bible is written by God, why is stuff in the Bible untrue?
Ahmadinejad.
You can see the pictures of our demonstrations.
Yes. Hundreds of thousands of people back you on this?
There is people that, because of propaganda, of the false portrayal of Zionism, that Ahmadinejad wants to kill us, and therefore we shouldn't approach them, that they have the fear. They've put in the fear element into Jews that they'll murder Jews if we approach them. But the Torah view was and is still shared by these Jews throughout the world, hundreds of thousands.
For generations, Jews have been run out of every capital in the Middle East by Muslim society.
Not true.
It is.
Not true.
Show me a Jewish society now in Damascus. Show me the Jewish society in Tehran.
Recent because
Show
of
me
the
Jews in North Africa. They've been run out, their property appropriated.
I've been in Yemen, in Morocco, in the Jewish communities. In all the communities, Jews have been living up to the creation of the State of Israel, till Zionism came about, rather, around 100 years ago. They have been living in peace without any human rights groups watching us. It is not a religious conflict. On the contrary, we have found a safe haven in the country.
Let's suppose that you get your wish, that Jews just leave Israel. Israel ceases...
That's not my wish.
Okay.
Yes.
Israel ceases to exist as a Jewish state.
Right.
It just ceases to exist.
Yes.
You really have trust that Muslims wouldn't butcher you?
I don't think Bill Donahue knows how big of a joke he is to everybody, including Catholics. Who wants to say, yeah, you see that, like, uber fat, obnoxious guy right there who's screaming? Yeah, he's on my team, Team Jesus. He's the perfect example of a hypocrite. And then, of course, look, are you ready for some harsh truths? Here's some real harsh truths, Bill Donahue. So he says, well, look, most intelligent people do. Intelligent people are religious. Okay, so let's take a look and see if that's true. Quote, religious people are likely to be less intelligent than their atheist counterparts, a study claims. The analysis, which looked at almost a century of data, found a negative correlation between high IQs and religiosity. Professors Myron Zuckerman and Jordan Silberman from the University of Rochester looked at 63 studies in the field carried out between 1938 and 2012. In their paper entitled The Relation Between Intelligence and Religiosity, a meta-analysis and some proposed explanations, Zuckerman and Silberman drew the conclusion that the majority of studies found that more intelligent people were less likely to subscribe to organized religion.
Let's make two things clear. ISIL is not Islamic. No religion condones the killing of innocents, and the vast majority of ISIL's victims have been Muslim. And ISIL is certainly not a state.
Well, that was the line from the president's speech last night that drew some of the loudest reaction. The president arguing that a group calling itself the Islamic State is, in fact, neither Islamic nor a state. Joining me now, Brooke Goldstein, who's a human rights attorney and director of the Lawfare Project, and Hassan Shilby, who's the chief executive director of the Florida branch for the Council of American Islamic Relations. We are going to begin with Hassan and then get to Brooke. Hassan, thank you for being here tonight. And so it is true that that Islam is not ISIS, but it is also true that ISIS is Islamic, is it not?
Well, ISIS is no more Islamic than the Westboro Baptist Church is, or the Crusaders are, or Anders Breivik is, or anybody who commits violence in the name of faith. Unfortunately, every single faith has had crazy extremists distort and twist that faith to justify their crazy political ends. And the reality is, Megan, is that moderate Muslims, Christians, and Jews have a lot more in common with each other than they do with extremists from within their own faith. And actually, extremist Muslims and extremist anti-Muslims have a lot in common, and that is that they both distort the Islamic faith to promote their their twisted agenda, which is rejected by the 1.7 billion Muslims of the world.
Well, they may be rejecting, moderate Islam, but they are preaching a form of Islam that is very popular in some corners of the world. And by those countries that follow strict Sharia law, they're not that far away from ISIS in some of their beliefs, in particular about women.
The UN issued Resolution 242, calling on Israel to give back those territories and withdraw troops.
Hey, are you denying the legitimacy of the Jewish state?
I'm just trying to...
Anti-Semite!
Wait, what?
After we aired the latest episode of Australian-produced program Juice Rap News, RT was accused of anti-Semitism.
On January 7th, masked gunmen attacked the offices of Charlie Hebdo in Paris. They killed 12 people and wounded at least 11 others. Charlie Hebdo is a satirical French weekly publication that is most known for its biting humor and, more specifically, for a string of cartoons that it has published about Islam and the Prophet Muhammad. This isn't the first time that Charlie Hebdo has been attacked. But for the editors of the magazine, the offense was the point. They believed that the short-term decision to avoid offense would damage French secular culture in the longer term.
I'm at the airport. It went pretty okay. I only got patted down extra a little bit.
Speeding.
I feel like it's an American thing that if you see a woman with a hijab, it's like a symbol of oppression.
I feel like it takes away from just you as a female being able to express.
A man tells you, like, you have to do this, and then you do it.
I feel like in some cultures they don't have a choice. My name is Edina Lekovic, and I'm the Director of Policy and Programming at an organization called the Muslim Public Affairs Council. The Quran, which is our holy book, it revealed the idea that women should cover their hair and their outward beauty, except for what they would normally leave uncovered. The vast majority of Muslim women who do cover do it in either the way that I'm wearing it, or more commonly, where just their face is showing, and their neck is covered, and then they wear regular clothing. But the core idea is that it's supposed to be a symbol of modesty and a symbol of a woman's intellectual ability over her physical beauty and, and sexuality.
What I'm more nervous about is like leaving this safe space of the office and like going out, especially like of all places to Hollywood.
I think it's just something that's like a very obvious statement of who you are.
Perhaps if I come across another woman wearing a hijab and she looks at me like, is she really a Muslim?
The first day I put my scarf on, I was walking in Westwood, and an old lady walked towards me, and she looked at me like she knew me, and I'm thinking, where do I know her from? Where do I know her from? And she comes up to me and puts her hand on my shoulder, and she says, honey, you're in America now. You don't have to wear that here. All right, so now it's time to learn how to put on a scarf, or a hijab, as they're called. So step one, if you can pull your hair back either into a low bun or some way that's going to keep your bangs from flying forward. Throw it over your head. Make sure that about a quarter of it is hanging down on one side. Cover as much of your hair as possible. And then take the long side and pull it under your chin, kind of tightly wrapped up and over your head. And then you'll take the end and just tuck it in wherever it feels comfortable. You are going to want to try to cover any exposed skin around your neck and shoulders and chest. And that's on a minute-by-minute basis. That's the maintenance that you want to look out for during the day. But otherwise, you're all set.
So we just got back from lunch, and there was one guy that was kind of like intensely staring at us, but I mean, for the most part, no one did anything outrageous.
I'm on the way to the airport now. I totally forgot that I was actually going to New York tonight.
The guy sitting next to me, as an opening sentence, said, "Are you Arabic?"
About to go to dinner wearing this. I'm a little nervous to see what people will say.
I felt like the need to be weirdly smiley and weirdly nice.
I didn't really think that many people were looking at me, but then I asked Chris and my mom, and they felt like everyone was kind of looking at us.
Got the recognition from another woman in a hijab who recognized and smiled back at me, like saying, "Okay, sister, we're on the same mission." We had this kind of female connection, It was very sweet, and I'll never forget, the way she looked at me was like she was acknowledging me and I was acknowledging her.
When you wear a hijab, it kind of does all the talking for you. It makes the first impression for you. And so I think if people have negative connotations about women who wear hijab, then it's hard to kind of counterbalance that.
Just walking around, people would just stare at you, and it felt weird. But I feel like I've definitely done that before.
I just got kind of used to having the hijab on my head, and I forgot that it was there. So when I would see these people intensely looking at me, it was like, why are they looking at me? And I'm like, oh, because I have this on my head.
The most surprising thing was when I wore it around my friends, they didn't react to it.
As a woman, you should be able to wear whatever you want, and if that's what you want to wear, then that's what you should wear.
I like the things that it represents. If those things are being humble and being intellectual and being equal.